We're back. Don Clark and Bob Prater here. Open up to Tina Miller enjoying a day off, and we're here with none other than Coach Chuck White and his wonderful
Jim
wife,
White.
Jim White. I don't know where that comes from.
I don't know. You keep saying Chuck.
I know. I kept saying that. Jim White from the movie McFarland USA, this now legendary coach. And Bob, at the break, we were having a very interesting conversation. We want to let you in on that. Bob, go ahead.
Well, I was relaying a story from when I was in high school. I wasn't very large, but I was a shot putter and a discus thrower, and I had a coach. His name was Tom Ragsdale, and he ended up. He's now in the National Track and Field Hall of Fame, but I didn't know who he was. He was my driver's ed teacher, as far as I knew. And he took an interest in me. Little did I know, he was the throwing coach for the Olympics because I was in Eugene, Oregon. And this man taught me so much because I was small. He wanted me to do things differently. But before one meet, he asked me to visualize. 50 feet was like the magic number. He said, Bob, I need you to visualize the chalk flying up at 50 feet. And I had never come within 2 feet of that number. And so I saw it in my head. He said, do you see it? I said, I do. And I went out, and the chalk flew up. And he grabbed me smiling, and he said, I need you to know something, Bob. He said, if you can't see it, you can't do it. And that has stuck with me my entire life. So having said that, we were talking about who has inspired you. You want to talk about that?
Well, I was asked that question before, and as far as a teacher or a coach, other than my parents, who has inspired me, and I couldn't come up with a coach. I've had negative coaching. I've had coaches that would tell you one thing and it didn't happen. And I said, so that has really developed my characteristics as a coach as far as my development on how I want to treat kids. Because if I tell them something, I want it to happen.
Right.
If you give them a consequence, then it has to happen. If you give them a praise, then that has to happen. And so I think, and I know my style has developed from the negative coaching that I've had. So I would not let it get me down. So I'm going to be a positive person.
Have you had an opportunity to mentor young coaches to teach them what you do?
Well, we can put it this way. Every coach in McFarland that coaches distance running, from elementary to recreation to high school, all ran for me. Every one of them.
Mm-hmm. Cheryl, how did you feel about the way you were portrayed and the difference you were able to make in this whole drama?
Well, actually, Maria Bello played me well, but she didn't play enough of me, I guess. And I'm not the star, but I was right there with Jim. In fact, one event, I was there before him, and they shot the gun to start the race because they didn't want him there. And so...
whoa. Tell us about that.
Yeah.
Why?
They wanted to beat me in a different way that's normal.
Well,
is that called cheating?
Yes.
Basically, on his situation, the bus got off on a detour or something, and I was there ahead of time, and the guy started lining them up and ready to go. In fact, we've talked to a young man that's now a principal up the way, and he said, I was at that race. I was hoping I would get a medal that day. And no, the bus came up. Jim told the boys, get your shoes on, get everything ready. Told the bus driver, you get right up to the line, don't go over the line. Well, they'll DQ us. And they shot the gun. Jim saw him coming. So the bus driver got up there. He told the boys, get out. They hit the road running, and they won.
Wow.
So it was a very interesting race.
We beat them anyway.
Wait a minute. They got off the bus and just started running?
That's what we had to do. I'd already told them we're going to be late. You won't have time to warm up. Put your shoes on, get your sweats off, and be ready to go to the line.
Oh, that's the best.
On the way over, we're watching the race, and bang, the gun goes off. We could hear it.
You know, some of the unfairness in sports, Jim, and you shared, I hope you're comfortable in sharing it here, that you really got a bone to pick with some of the sports authorities because, you know, you won 9 state championships, but you've confided that you should have won 11 or 12 and were robbed of those. Share that, if you would.
Well, that's a loaded question, too, but I'll gladly share it. Our great commissioner and his expertise decided that McFarland wins too much, and so we want to develop and put his section, which is a central section here, we want to put it into equity. That means equal, right? Okay, equity. You're going to give somebody else a chance whether they've earned it or not. That's what they're trying to do. So they went, we're a Division IV school, and they moved us up to Division III for 2 years, and we still won. And so we were there for 2 years. We had to be there for 2 years, and then they moved us to Division II. So we took first and Division II in our section, but we couldn't compete on the state level as well. So then we went to the meeting. We took our legal counsel and our superintendents, and we attended their meeting and trying to get it back down to Division IV. And they had a cap. They couldn't move us up to Division I because they had a cap. They can only move us 2 places. Right. We left that meeting. They voted to remove the cap, and we left that meeting in Division I.
Wow.
In the last 5 years, this is the first time actually in 24 years that we didn't qualify for state. But in the last 5 years, we probably would have won at least 3 more times.
Wow. Wow. Just
So
because
that's
of
equity for you.
an arbitrary decision that you're winning too much. So
That's what he said. Yeah, let's give somebody else a chance.
So McFarland was like the Yankees. I mean, it was
Well, that or Boston. Or
yeah, like the Celtics.
But so many of your young men who worked so hard and deserved what they'd worked for were robbed of that.
Oh, robbed every year because
Wow.
it's different kids every year.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And right now, we've lost 5 of the top 7. We can still compete on Division IV, but we won't get back to Division I because the top 3 teams already have almost everybody back. So it'll be another dry year.
So-
but we'll still compete.
So, Jim, attitude. I mean,
That's
you just
it.
kept coming back at it. So share with the world, and we've got viewers in 19 countries, what it takes to just hang in there when opposition just keeps coming at you and you just keep coming back in a winning form.
Well, I've got to talk attitude, and I won't talk too much more about attitude, but I tell the kids, look, what we did over the years, they can tear down overnight if we allow it. We're not going to allow it. We might not do well at state because of our mental attitude, because that's affected them too. We were told 2 years there in a row that if we would just run and compete on the higher division, he'll let us go back to Division IV for the state level. And about 2 or 3 weeks right before the state meet, it came through our AD that, no, we're not going to do that. So all along the whole year, we had a positive attitude that this will happen. I don't care if we go into higher division in our section. Let us compete on the state level. But they didn't do that. They cheated us again.
So my favorite part of the film, by far, was the ending when they began to reveal how lives had been changed. When the reality was something that had been the reality for X amount of years, for generations before, and all of a sudden the reality changed. And so, as a resident of Kern County, I want to thank both of you for what you've done for our county. It is nothing short of spectacular what you have done to change lives. And literally, you two have the ability to see things that do not exist as if they do. And that is a very rare gift. So thank you from us.
Thank you very much. What the movie doesn't show is Mr. and Mrs. Diaz actually had 7 kids. 1 girl, 6 boys. All 6 boys ran for me. But more importantly than that is all 7 of them graduated from college. 5 of them with their master's degree. 3 vice principals, 1 counselor. And the only one that didn't make a teacher or educational-wise is a detective. Yep.
The movie hinted at it, but I have heard you speak, and I've heard your guys speak. And what is really there is a tremendous undergirding of faith, faith in God, faith in themselves. What has this movie done for your own faith as you've gone through this experience? Cheryl?
Well, it's a tremendous impact on us also, because these kids have all become our kids, and the movie depicted only one prayer. We had a prayer before every race, And several years ago, the boys asked me, because we'd always form a circle, and they said, "Do you pray, Mrs. White?" And I said, "Absolutely. That's our whole groundwork there." And so they asked me, would I teach them how to pray?
Wow.
And that was very emotional to me. So many of them have never learned to pray, or what, and just certain words they say. So I just explained to them, if they're going to pray, they're going to write a letter. Just say, "Dear Father," or "Our Father in Heaven," or whatever you want to say, and thank Him for what He's done for you. And then always ask Him for what you want, but ask it in His favor, or if it's His will. And then always pray through Jesus' name. And you can say that different ways than you're saying goodbye, amen. So that's been a real tremendous thing to us. So the impact has been fantastic.
Well, they're sure bold now in expressing their faith. I'll
Yeah.
tell you, it's become very much a part of their lives, and that's very evident.
It's I tell people when we talk, especially when I have the boys with me, that this is the I still call them boys. I'm sorry, the young men.
Sure.
But this is the only team that I could really say this about, sharing their faith like that. Because, 15, 16 years ago, there was information and interest on developing a movie. That long ago. And we've gone through 3 or 4 different movie people, production companies. But it's taken God's timing. These boys weren't ready for that yet. So 15 years later, 16 years later, they now have something to give.
Right.
And they're doing it. It's fantastic what they're doing too. They just got back from Chicago,
My goodness.
and at
My
their own,
goodness.
basically their own expense.
Well, Jim, Cheryl, I know you're going to get up from this table and go on to a dozen more interviews. You were saying in one city alone, what was it, Toronto or Montreal? You had, 29 interviews?
Yeah, something like that. 26, 29.
Well,
interviews.
you're having a global impact, and it couldn't come from 2 more fine people. And
thank you very much.
And thanks. And Bob, you said it well. They've
It's
really,
a very high honor, isn't
I'll
it?
tell you.
Yeah.
Well, there are other ways to win, and how about just knowing all about this nation and what founded this nation and the miracle McFarland? There's a miracle in another small farming community here in Kern County that is almost of equal impact, and we're going to tell you about it when we come back.